Good afternoon. I've met some of you I have not met. I'm one of the founders of Optimum Networking, and we started this about 18 or 19 years ago. And before that, I was a network engineer, started out at the Air Force Weapons Lab. And way back in the 80s, we had a big security breach. And it was, there's a famous book written about the security breach. It was called The Cooper's Day. And they traced this guy back, and they find him in Germany, I think. He was a Russian, and he was breaking into all of the Secret Service, top secret places around the country. At the time, there really wasn't an internet. There was a private network around the world, and we were on that as a node on that, along with some of the major research universities and fields. But there weren't firewalls. You couldn't really protect yourself very well. Everyone was trusted. Well, since then, a lot has changed. After we started this company, firewalls started becoming a thing that we could purchase. And the first one we used was what was called IP Firewall from Cisco. Very rudimentary firewall. It was basically intended to say, we think we know who some of the bad guys are, and we know that the people on the inside are good. And that's not always the case. And so we came up with a fairly basic firewall. And that lasted a couple of years for us, but then we realized we have some issues. We can't monitor it very well. We don't really know if there's been a breach. We don't know if there's been attempts. And so Optimum Networking decided we need to find a better product. And Cisco had a better product out that had just come out. It was called a Pix. And so we started reselling Pixes. And they were an okay firewall, but the same thing happened again. It didn't have the features that we needed, didn't have the monitoring functions that we needed, didn't have the reporting capabilities that our clients wanted. So from there we moved on. We went to a company called NetScreen. Well, the NetScreen firewall was fairly revolutionary because you could pull logging out of it. It was very easy to configure. It was easy to monitor. And you kind of knew, just at a glance, if you were in a good spot, a bad spot, what was going on. And we sold those firewalls for 8 or 9 years. But as everything in this industry, there's change. And so that company got purchased by a company called Juniper. Well, Juniper decided after a few years they wanted to get rid of that line and just sell their own product. And we looked at that and said, I don't know if that's the type of product for us anymore. And so we made one more step to Fortinet. And as Brett was talking about before, antivirus is a very important thing, but it's ever changing. Every day, antivirus is changing because there's new viruses out there. And every year, there's one antivirus package that's better than the next. And so we chase that as a company because we want to have the best possible solution we can for our clients. So we're always looking at what's the best antivirus. And that's always up for debate. People can say, well, no, I think the trend is better than this one. So what we do is we look at industry tests, and we look at how they're rated, and we try to stay in the top 1 or 2 or 3 antivirus packages. If an antivirus package is number 1 on April 1st, it might not be on May 1st. And so we try to really stay at the top of it. We do the same thing with firewalls, and so that's why we're using Fortinet now. A lot of the engineers at Fortinet came from the old NetScreen firewall, and so they took a lot of the features and benefits and then improved them. So the reason I give you that history is because it's important to know that, if you put a firewall in and you forget about it for 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 years, all of a sudden it's not doing what we think it's doing anymore. As you saw that what Al's presentation was, some of the things on there are very rudimentary. People can hack in a very simplistic way, and it's been that way for many, many years. But the attacks are becoming more and more complex. If the firewall is not becoming more complex, it's not catching these complexities that are happening out there in the industry. So that's why you'll see us from time to time say, well, we're really recommending this product and this package, and here's why. So you'll hear some terms, and maybe you've heard them in the past: intrusion detection and prevention. That's an enhancement to what a firewall does. It's not what firewalls originally did, but it's a package that says, let's look deeper at what's going on. Let's look at not just someone trying to log in with a password or what they're trying to connect to. If they connect, let's look at that whole string of traffic and what they're doing. And so it starts storing up that entire session. And it can be a very, very long session. You can be online for 4, 5, 10, 15 minutes before that device says, okay, this is an intrusion, and I'm going to stop it. Because intrusions no longer are, hey, I'm trying to log in as Bob. Oh, wrong password. Oh, we have a problem there. Something's going on. Let's stop that person. They're very complex compared to the beginning. So you'll hear things like intrusion detection and prevention, deep packet inspection. You'll hear these terms, and a lot of these, and like web content filtering, these are add-ons that firewalls have started adding on. You know, the idea of getting crypto locker can happen a couple of different ways. It can come in as an email attachment. You can download it. And so if you have a web content filterer that can say, we're not going to allow you to go to certain sites. Social media sites are big sites for viruses and worms and trojans. So are, you know, like Facebook is big. Gambling sites. And there's other sites that we all know about out there. They're not the best sites to go to. And that's a lot of times where people can get infected. By having something in your firewall that says, we're not going to allow you to go to certain types of sites, it gives you more protection, but it still isn't 100%. And so to Al's point, you know, sometimes it's a training thing. The phishing attempts, that's a training issue. How do we know if someone's scamming us? And that's just education. That's going to change every single day. There's going to be more and more out there that we're going to have to be aware of. And that's just the nature of security. Scans are something that Al talked about. And there are different types of scans. And what we saw on the board, one of them was the idea of, he went out there and this hacker pinged an address and he started looking at different ports to see what the firewall would allow in. So from the internet, what it's allowing into your company. And then they start saying, are there vulnerabilities on these? The idea of getting a scan done is a very important one. And we do scans for our clients, but there's that issue of, well, are we really a third party? Are we really the ones who should be doing that? We do them so that we know, yeah, our firewall is configured and it's tight and it looks correct and looks good. But having a third party is a very important component. Having a third party to also scan internally on your network is important. And we're seeing more and more of this. And what that means is, we take a probe and we put it on your network, and we let it look at everyone's PCs in that trusted environment. See, it used to be, like I mentioned earlier, that you would say, well, all of my employees, they're trusted, so they can all go up to the minute and do whatever they want. Not all internal employees are trusted anymore. And so by doing a scan and looking at PCs and looking at servers in-house, we find these little vulnerabilities that over time need to be remediated as well. And so that's something that Red Team helps us with. And that's a third party. So we bring a third party in to say, here's what we're seeing. And then we can all talk about the remediation of that and the lessons learned and how we grow from that.